good government. How's it going? Um, how's my signal? I know nobody's in here yet, so I'm gonna wait. But I think to give this stream value later on, I'm just gonna start right away and just start jumping into Supreme Court cases. And I don't think that I don't know. Every Supreme Court case is not the same. Every case is not. There's no case. There's no two cases that are the same. But hey, what's up, West? It's Steven. Hey, Sneaky. How's it going? So in Robin versus Hardaway, 1790, said that biblical law at common law supersedes all laws, and Christianity is custom, and custom is law. Cool, huh? The United States of America, Congressional Record, Monday, August 19th, 1940. Excerpt from pages 4 and 5. I want you to note particularly that this was in 1913, and that 1913 was the very year we changed our government from a republic to a semi-democracy. The year in which we destroyed constitutional government, international security, and paved the road for us to become a colony of the British Empire. It was also the same year in which we, by adopting the Federal Reserve Act, placed our treasury under the control and domination of the Bank of England and the international banking groups that are now financing the British Israel movement in the United States. The idea prevails with some, indeed. It has expression and arguments at the bar that we have in this country substantially two national governments, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument. Hey, Black, crypto, I don't know, man. I would rather have something tangible. What if, how are you going to spend your crypto if the internet gets wiped out or something? It's just something to think about. I'm not knocking your crypto or anything. I just would rather have something tangible myself. But as I was saying, I'm going to start this whole paragraph over. Sorry. The idea prevails with some. Indeed, it has expression in arguments at the bar that we have in this country substantially two national governments. Yeah. One to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument by exercising such powers as other nations of the earth are accustomed to. I take leave to say that if the principles thus announced should ever receive the sanction of a majority of the court, a radical and mischievous change in our system will result. We will, in that event, pass from the era of a constitutional liberty guarded and protected by a written constitution into an era of legislative absolutism. It will be an evil day for American liberty if the theory of a government outside the supreme law of the land finds lodgment in our constitutional jurisprudence. No higher duty rests upon this court than to exert its full authority to prevent all violation of the principles of the Constitution. Supreme Court Justice John Harlan in the 1901 case of Downs versus Bidwell. That's what that was. In case you guys didn't know, I am giving away ounces of silver to a random lucky individual, 1 in 10 orders on the website, shop.freedomfromgovernment.org. And I've already given away 2 of them. So that's through this Sunday. I've got a whole bunch more to give away. So, it's silver. I mean, like, the thing about crypto that I think is cool is, how Bitcoin, went up when it, went up, right? So if you, buy Bitcoin when it's low and then you get out, uh, when it goes up, you know, that's totally legit, right? I mean, I'm not knocking anybody for doing that, uh, or for anybody that would do that, you know. Um, but I can't use it to store value. I feel like, you know what I mean? So it could be one thing. Hey, if you guys are watching this, I am at like 900 subs on my channel called Partially Woke. I need another 100, and then I can have 2 live streams going at the same time when I'm out dealing with the cops. That would be cool. I mean, 2 different devices, 2 different channels, at 2 different live streams. You know, so I would really appreciate it if you gave me some subs over there, because then there could be 2 angles. You know what I mean? And I'm willing to do that. It's all good. Um, Neither consent nor submission by the states can enlarge the powers of Congress. None can except those which are granted. United States versus Butler, decided January 6, 1936. The sovereignty of the state, essential to its proper functioning under the federal Constitution, cannot be surrendered. It cannot be taken away by any form of legislation. See United States versus Constantine. And we've all heard this, right? Men are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure, not grant or create these rights, governments are instituted. That property or income which a man has honestly acquired, he retains full control of. It's Budd versus People of State of New York, 1892. In von Hoffman versus the City of Quincy in 1866, nothing can be more material to the obligation than the means of enforcement. Without the remedy, the contract may indeed, in the sense of the law, be said not to exist, and its obligation to fall within the class of those moral and social duties which depend for their fulfillment wholly upon the will of the individual. The ideas of validity and remedy are inseparable, and both are parts of the obligation which is guaranteed by the Constitution against invasion. The obligation of the contract is the law which binds the parties to perform their agreement. Because of what appears to be a lawful command on the surface, many citizens, because of their respect for what appears to be law, are cunningly coerced into waiving their rights due to ignorance. That's U.S. versus Meeker, 1956. The entire taxing and monetary system are hereby placed under the UCC. That's a quote from the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. A state may provide for the collection of taxes in gold and silver only. What? Wait a second. No, it actually says that in Whitaker versus Haley. Taxes lawfully assessed are collectible by agents in money, and notes cannot be accepted in payment. Whoa. That's town of Frankfurt versus Waldo. So all you people that pay taxes in a private debt note, it would behoove you to do some research. Hagar versus Reclamation District in 1884. Acts of Congress making the notes or paper of the United States a legal tender do not apply to exactions, which are taxes made under state law. And at common law, there was no tax lien. You know what I'm saying? U.S. Supreme Court, Memphis Bank and Trust Company versus Garner, 1983. The Tennessee Bank Act violates the immunity of obligations. Federal Reserve Notes 31 U.S.C. 3124 and 18 U.S.C. 8 of the United States. Wait, hold on. Let me redo that. The Tennessee Bank tax violates the immunity of obligations. of the United States from state and local taxation. Federal Reserve notes are not dollars. Yeah, pay off their houses. You know what? Where does that money to buy the house come from? It's a good question. I'm just asking. Uh, the term dollars, likewise, is incorrect, which, according to constitutional definition, are monetary units used in exchange backed by gold and silver. Our present day fiat issues are supported by more printed paper of the same. Therefore, they are correctly termed Federal Reserve notes, not dollars. That's in the written by Robert P. Vikas, the Handbook of Financial Mathematics, Formulas and Tables, 1979, page 420. Federal Reserve banknotes and other notes constituting a part of common currency of country are recognized as good tender for money unless specially objected to. What does that say? You know, what I would say that means is there is no money. Like I said in a previous video. Then Gibbons versus Ogden, 1824, Supreme Court. Persons are not the subjects of commerce. Hey, man. Hey, thanks, man. You know what? I think we should all get past our differences. And I love you, bro. And, you know, it's all good. We we're on the same team, right? You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to do anything but love. So I appreciate it, man. Um, there is a distinction between a debt discharged and one paid. When discharged, the debt still exists, though divested of its character as a legal obligation. Oh yeah. Hey, thanks, man. It's all good. I'm gonna start that over actually. Now that you know, there is a distinction between debt discharged and one paid. When discharged, the debt still exists, though divested of its character as a legal obligation during the operation of the discharge. You make sense of that? What is a dollar? Oh, if you want to look that one up, it's Stenick versus White, 1927. What is a dollar? Hey, thanks. Yeah, partially woke. I need like another 100 subs so I can have two streams going next time I am dealing with some agents and stuff. And I really want to I want to be peaceful and show people, show people what happens to me, at the least. I will I'll deal with it. What is a dollar? It's just something artificial we throw out there. What you're doing is you're fooling people into thinking they have purchasing power, when in fact they do not. And that's Dennis Karnofsky, Chief Economic Advisor, St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank, June 10th, 1978. Ballantyne's Law Dictionary, 3rd edition, dollar. The legal currency of the United States. State versus Downs. It is partially woke. It's the first. It's got an orange and white logo. It says partially woke. I can give you a link. I don't know. Actually, I do have. I got it. Let me hook you up. I have to get there. Oh, it's so nice having full internet. Y'all saying? I'm here in Salt Lake City and I am looking for ideas on fun stuff to do. What kind of fun stuff is there to do out here? The link just went in the chat. That's the link to the other channel. I need, let me see where we at. Just 1 second. Yeah, Freeman in the house. Hey, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you being here. Even if you're just like checking it out or whatever, it's all good. I mean, I'm not trying to. We all gotta, man. This stuff. We gotta like help each other and stuff. So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, water on the bridge today. I want to live in the now, right? Live in the now. Plan for the future, but like, be cool. You know, I'm cool. I can be cool. It's cool. Uh, yeah, it says it's at 896. So I appreciate all the subs. Thanks. The canyons, huh? Jay, you are here, Salt Lake, because I went out walking around downtown tonight and took a picture of myself in front of the United States courthouse. It's weird though because the United States courthouse isn't it the United States of America? It's weird. I don't know. It's weird. It's like they're weird corporation things or something. Um, hey, thanks. I had to go live, man. I got signal. I'm at a hotel. I'm gonna be here for a little while, and oh, why not go live, right? Anybody want to meet up? We can meet up. I'm in Salt Lake. Uh, Ballantines Law Dictionary, third edition, dollar. Did I already read this one? The legal currency of the United States. State versus Downs. The unit of money consisting of 100 cents. The aggregate of specific coins which add up to $1. American Jurisprudence, first edition, money. In the absence of qualifying words, it cannot mean promissory notes, bonds, or other evidences of debt. Simon versus Kraft. In determining whether such rights were denied, we are governed by the substance of things and not by mere form. The Supreme Court of the United States, 1795. Inasmuch as every government is an artificial person, an abstraction, and a creature of the mind only, a government can interface only with other artificial persons. The imaginary, having neither actuality nor substance, is foreclosed from creating and attaining parity with the tangible. The legal manifestation of this is that no government, as well as any law, agency, aspect, court, etc., can concern itself with anything other than corporate artificial persons and the contracts between them. So even if you have a contract with the government, it still remains to be seen if that contract is even valid because they can't even interface with people. They can only interface with people who have agreed to represent persons, if you see what I'm saying, you know? That last quote was from Penhallow versus Doan's Administrators, 1795. An attorney for the plaintiff cannot admit evidence into the court. He is either an attorney or a witness. You may have recognized that from Trinzi versus Pagliaro. Statements of counsel in brief or in argument. Yeah, what's the definition of a sob sit? Oh, jeez. Someone who thinks the laws don't apply to them, right? uh, where there are no depositions, admissions, or affidavits, the court has no facts to rely on for a summary determination. That's also Trinzi versus Pagliaro. The prosecutor is not a witness, and he should not be permitted to add to the record either by subtle or gross improprieties. Those who have experienced in the full thrust of the power of government when levied against them know that the only protection the citizen has is the requirement for a fair trial. That's Donnelly versus De Cristoforo. This is a good one here. United States versus Kominsky, 1988 even. For purposes of criminal prosecution under 241 or 1584, the term involuntary servitude necessarily means a condition of servitude in which the victim is forced to work for the defendant by the use or threat of physical restraint or physical injury, or by the use or threat of coercion through law or legal process. This definition encompasses cases in which the defendant holds the victim in servitude by placing him or her in fear of such physical restraint or injury or legal coercion. I'm telling you, man, it's involuntary servitude. If we aren't, a Savsit, you want to know what I think it is? A sovereign citizen is a term created to, discredit. Essentially, it's kind of like one of the first one was conscientious objector. What does that even mean? That's like, oh, I choose to disagree or something, right? Now they're all, before Savsit, it was like conspiracy theorist, but that wasn't good enough because uh, it's interesting. Sovereign, you take that word, and that sovereign is an authority, a gold Thor. AU stands for gold, right? And then Thor, authority. And then a citizen is someone who has agreed to be a subject or something. Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. Jay, thank you. McNally versus U.S. Fraud, in its elementary common law sense of deceit, includes the deliberate concealment of material information in a setting of fiduciary obligation. A public official is a fiduciary toward the public, and if he deliberately conceals material information from them, he is guilty of fraud. Yeah, James Freeman has got some big old balls, and I'll be the first to admit it. He's damn good. But what I feel like I want to try to do is get out there and just, I know it's going to sound like I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but I want to try to be nice and stuff. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I agree with that, James Freeman. Uh, I'm thinking, yeah, like for real. Those guys that throw the badge on and think that now they are like, who even knows what they think? You know what I mean? But yeah, they're wrong. Uh, if they're not following, the things that are meant, for the old saying to protect and serve, that they don't have that on their cars anymore. They say commitment to excellence or some shit. You know what I mean? It's not to protect and serve anymore, and that's what it has to go back to, because the uh, the purpose of government to begin with was to, well, what? Anybody? To protect the rights of the people, right? I mean, I think so. It wasn't to go out there and steal all their shit and like make them like produce paperwork or throw handcuffs on them if they don't, kind of thing. Ooh, yeah, you know what? That would burn me up too, James. Ugh. Yeah, the thing about immunity is they're supposed to only have it when they're doing the right thing. So And yeah, they claim, I'm sure they're, that's why I feel like it's tough, but I feel like we should stop participating. Yeah. What's the best breakfast in Salt Lake City? Tomorrow's my birthday. I want to treat myself to something extraordinary. Anybody know of one? Something good? There's this one. It has, I don't I don't remember the name. Exactly, Cop Block, Hot Springs. Man, these people they're like out of control servants. Yeah, they're wrong. you know, talk about yeah. Oh, Jay, yeah, I would believe that you know what's up around here. Uh, yeah, Pisces. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Jay. Um, Morrison versus Coddington in 1983 in Arizona. Fraud and deceit may arise from silence where there is a duty to speak the truth. Oh yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I wouldn't call any of my friends a sob sit, and they would never agree to being one. You know what I mean? And who's the paper terrorist? The paper terrorists. So there's guys with the badge that like to write things to make you have to go appear somewhere later on, right? Take it easy, Wayne. You know what? I'm looking at your comment. I'm not really able to make sense of it too much. I can't infer what your intent was, but I'm thinking that you said something about consider conversation with like-minded individuals, not just those who you think have a completely different opinion. Make one tiny vague comment. I want everybody to interact. Like I am, you can comment, and I'm sorry if I missed your comment. I didn't mean to. Yeah, hey James Freeman, you know what I saw? What I've been seeing lately is these attorneys with these channels. There's this one that I even got a little bit involved with called Artie's Corporate Fiction or something is his channel, and the dude just is a douchebag. And it's funny because there's this other girl attorney who says, I'm a criminal defense attorney. And then she makes these videos calling people sob sits and like stands up for the cops. But she's only doing her job, right? Because she is a criminal defense attorney. What's she doing? She's defending the criminals, right? The cops. So, yeah. Uh, they have been blowing up the sob sit thing, trying to really put that out there. Uh, but you know what? I think they're desperate. They're coming down. It's coming down. They're done. But in view of 40 USCS 255, no jurisdiction exists in the United States to enforce federal criminal laws unless and until consent to accept jurisdiction over lands acquired by the United States has been filed in behalf of the United States as provided in said section. And fact that state has authorized government to take jurisdiction is immaterial in Adams versus United States. Brennan is a cop. You ask, if I bought an RV, do I have to register, transfer it over? I mean, like, to what? What do you want to transfer your RV over to? What's your intent? Are you trying to avoid getting in trouble, or are you trying to stand up for your rights? I mean, you know, it's all in what you're trying to accomplish. If you don't want to get bothered, you can do the thing that everybody else does and pay to register. I'm not going to tell you that, and James Freeman, hey, listen, man, I'm sorry, man. I want to move past all that shit from before. And I hope it can, because we really, it'd be a dream to like be cool and like have each other's backs and stuff. And I don't know. I've been, it's like we're fighting the same thing, right? So it's all good. I'm interested in peace, and I'm, water under the bridge. Uh, Here, listen to this. U.S. versus Will. When a judge acts where he or she does not have jurisdiction to act, the judge is engaged in an act or acts of treason. Yeah, that was in 1980. And yeah, you know what? I quit smoking. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. And I just walked around downtown tonight further than I've walked in a long time. I had to wear my knee brace because my knee's all blown out, but it was fun. It was nice, you know. Zeller versus Rankin in well, when a judge knows that he lacks jurisdiction or acts in the face of clearly valid statutes expressly depriving him of jurisdiction, judicial immunity is lost. Note, it is a fact of law that the person asserting jurisdiction must, when challenged, prove that jurisdiction exists. Mere good faith assertions of power and authority, jurisdiction, have been abolished. So, jurisdiction of court may be challenged at any stage of the proceeding and also may be challenged after conviction and execution of judgment by way of writ of habeas corpus. That's U.S. versus Anderson in 1945. The law requires proof of jurisdiction to appear on the record of the administrative agency and all administrative proceedings. That's Higgins versus Levine. And Tennessee Coal, Iron, and R Company versus George, 1914, the right to sue depends. Venue is no part of a right, and whether jurisdiction exists is to be determined by the law of the state creating the court in which the case is tried. A state cannot create a transitory cause of action at the same time destroy the right to sue thereon in any court having jurisdiction, although in another state. Once jurisdiction is challenged, the court cannot proceed when it clearly appears that the court lacks jurisdiction. The court has no authority to reach merits, but rather should dismiss the action. Mello versus U.S. Catch up on the combo here. Yeah. Hey, cool, man. I don't, we don't have to agree, but I think we're on the same side. Do you agree with that? I mean, so yeah, uh, you know, uh, thank you. I don't know, thanks for hanging out. Yeah, yeah, totally, James. Thank you. I was thinking about reaching out to you and saying, "Hey, man, sorry about the shit, but we can move past that, right?" And I hope we can, because we're only hurting ourselves when we're like, you know, acting like whatever. But yeah, I'm cool. You're cool. We're cool. It's cool. Uh, yeah. Um, I don't even know what to say, but yeah, right on. Uh, yeah. Uh, a judgment rendered by a court without personal jurisdiction over the defendant is void. It is a nullity. Ceramic versus Ceramic. That was in 1993. A court cannot confer jurisdiction where none existed and cannot make a void proceeding valid. It is clear in well-established law that a void order can be challenged in any court. That was from 1907. There is no discretion to ignore lack of jurisdiction. Joyce versus U.S. Court must prove on the record all jurisdiction facts related to the jurisdiction asserted. That's Lantana versus Hopper. The law provides that once state and federal jurisdiction has been challenged, it must be proven. That's Maine versus Saldat in 1980. Jurisdiction can be challenged at any time, and jurisdiction, once challenged, cannot be assumed and must be decided. That's Basso versus Utah Power and Light Company. Defense of lack of jurisdiction over the subject matter may be raised at any time, even on appeal. That's Hilltop Developers versus Holiday Pines Service Corp., 1985. Once challenged, jurisdiction cannot be assumed. It must be proved to exist. Stock versus Medical Examiners. There is no discretion to ignore that lack of jurisdiction. Joyce versus U.S. The burden shifts to the court to prove jurisdiction. Rosemond versus Lambert. A universal principle as old as the law is that a proceedings of a court without jurisdiction are a nullity and its judgment therein without effect either on person or property. Norwood versus Renfield. Jurisdiction is fundamental, and a judgment rendered by a court that does not have jurisdiction to hear is void ab initio. Yeah, these are all decisions where that has happened. Thus, where a judicial tribunal has no jurisdiction of the subject matter on which it assumes to act, its proceedings are absolutely void in the fullest sense of the term. Dillon versus Dillon. You know what? Okay, here's the thing. If you're dealing with a municipal court, they're going to railroad you. You got to take it past that if you're wanting to change things or get a judgment or order or whatever, fix things or something. But what I'm thinking is that we're pretty far down that hole where we're, we can count on it there being corruption from the top to the bottom, right? So I'm thinking that what I would do in a court case, if I had one coming up, is I would get a hold of whoever it was that was pressing the charges and make a deal with them. And sometimes you can make a deal with people, like we did that day that Gator got arrested for for traveling, and we took the car home. But first, we had one of our team members make a deal with the sergeant that he wouldn't mess with us anymore. And there's ways to do it, to get him to promise things without I don't know. Maybe we could talk about that some other time. It was amazing to witness, though. A court has no jurisdiction to determine its own jurisdiction. For a basic issue in any case before a tribunal is its power to act, and a court must have the authority to decide that question in the first instance. And that's Rescue Army versus Municipal Court of Los Angeles. See, when it turns into a case site, it's departed from the municipal court. A departure by a court from those recognized and established requirements of law, however, close. apparent adherence to more form in methods of procedure which has the effect of depriving one of a constitutional right is an excess of jurisdiction. And that's West WUEST versus WUEST. Yeah, crimes are commercial, even murder, because it's not. We don't have a common law system anymore. It's yeah. Lose versus American Energy Savers Incorporated, 1988. Where jurisdiction is contested, the burden of establishing it rests upon the plaintiff. You know who the plaintiff is in a criminal proceeding? Yeah, the DA. And he's usually prosecuting in the name of a fiction, and like the people of the state of. But how are they going to fit all those people on the stand? I mean, you're supposed to be able to face your accuser, and if your accuser is a fiction, or if they say your accuser is everybody, you know, like that's some nutty fruitcake right there. Bindell versus City of Harvey, 1991. The burden of proving jurisdiction rests upon the party asserting it. So if they're coming at you saying that you are their subject or whatever, they need to show evidence of that, you know. And that's one of the things I would say to the prosecutor when I called him and said, "Look, I don't want to be a party to fraud, okay? And I know you guys are committing all kinds of fraud up in there, so you'll forgive me if I choose not to participate in fraud, correct?" Like that, you know. And that's kind of a way of saying that they don't have jurisdiction, but it's also a way of saying to fuck off, kind of. You know what I mean? Because like, who are they to force you into some kind of proceeding where there's no victim? I mean, I would. Don't get me wrong. If there was a victim pointing the finger at me, I would have to deal with the consequences. But there's this thing where it's not. There's not a victim. It is like the yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, the problem is the court will not listen. So what I'm saying is, I'll call up the prosecutor and go fraud, fraud. Start saying fraud, fraud. You know, and I'm able to explain it. You know, because they aren't having a real victim come. You know, so I'll call a prosecutor and say, hey, I'm not trying to be a party to fraud, and you can't make me. So I am not going to participate in your proceeding unless you can show me evidence that you have authority over me. Simple, you know? Nobody says you have to play their game. I mean, I would make them show me some kind of something that proves I have to, you know? Because if someone was suing me in civil court, that's something else, you know? I'm right on Temple, whatever, West Temple something. Hell yeah. No, I don't know. I actually can't eat donuts because I want to live longer. That's pretty messed up, huh? But I'm trying to get rid of sugar. And I think, isn't flour sugar also? I mean, I was baking bread there for a long time, for a little while, you know. I went vegan before, and it was purely like out of empathy for the animals. So it wasn't about me, you know what I mean? It was about them. And it lasted for a little while, you know. But yeah. Thanks. I appreciate it. I mean, if you would have caught me at some earlier point in my life, I would have been all over that. But yeah, I appreciate it. Um, I am gonna go get a good breakfast tomorrow. Uh, I think gonna. Yeah, right on. Uh, yeah, I need to cut sugar out because I think that's they're trying to kill us. Yeah. Yeah, smoking, cigarettes, that was a really hard thing to give up. And I have cravings every once in a while, but I don't want them. Uh, Blue Plate Diner, huh? All right, I'll look into that. Um, Cigarettes. When I first started thinking about quitting cigarettes, I was like, I got all this anxiety, like, and I was thinking, what will I do once I quit? Like, how will I even? I couldn't even visualize that. You know what I mean? Until I made that decision and that commitment to just do it, and I really feel like God took it from me. And I'm doing this a little bit sometimes. I'm vaping, but I cut down the levels so it's not too much nicotine. You know what? I sometimes I just forget about that thing, so I'm not addicted to it like the cigarettes. Like I was to the cigarettes. But we all have endocannabinoid systems, so and that's what breaks the programming. So there's also this. You have to do it real slow. Hopefully, I got a good one. Yeah, but I don't do flour. I mean, I want some of that OG Kush from Colorado or California, because that I just love the taste and the feel of it. I could do anything with that. But yeah, mainly into dabs now. But I'm trying to even cut back on that. You know, don't pass the bar, man. I don't know. I used to think that going past the bar would be like some kind of magical boundary that now you're. Oh, me too. Sour diesel, yeah. When it's good, it's good. Like Trainwreck too. I would still smoke flower. I just am not into it too much. I mean, but if you know when it's good enough to not pass up, right? Yeah. What do you guys think about me reading these case sites? I got so much more of them. Like, I could go on for days doing this. Like Flake versus Pretzel, 1943. The actions, being statutory proceedings, were void for want of power to make them. The judgments were based on orders which were void because the court exceeded its jurisdiction in entering them. Where a court, after acquiring jurisdiction of a subject matter as here, transcends the limits of jurisdiction conferred, the judgment is void. Oh, you know what? Maybe I should share my live stream with more of my audience. Hey, check out the live stream. We're doing it live. So, does anybody else out there want to hear me answer a question or like respond to a statement or anything? Yeah, yeah, you can't have a bunch of emotion going on. Hey, thanks, grab it. Yeah, yeah, that bar. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go there. One time, a judge told me, "Nobody held a gun to your head to be here today," and I was like, "Oh, you're right. Nobody did." So, like, maybe now I'll only go when I have a gun held to me so that he can't say that anymore. You know what I mean? Or go in there and make sure I'm in chains every time. because otherwise, I mean, I'm not just gonna like dip, but I'm gonna call them up and I'm gonna say, look, you guys want to commit fraud and you want me to be a party to it. I'm gonna call it out, and I'm not gonna participate in your fraud. So you're gonna have to drag me in there in chains under duress, you know? And I don't know. I think a lot of the time the stuff just like kind of goes away. And what you I think how it works is you look like you lose in the public, and then in the private you win, you know? And so yeah, yeah, seriously. Seriously. Hey Jay, that's cool. Yeah, I don't even know how long it's probably at least 8, 9 years since I quit with that game. And the first time I got stopped, it was rough, but I stood up, and I was wrong in how I handled it. I'll admit that even. I was a little too abrasive, but I've learned. You either win or you learn. There is no failure. So yeah, you win or you learn. There is no failure. But my opinion is that you sink to their level when you start getting emotional with them. I'm gonna go grab something real quick. Is it funny? I got a black light for the hotel room to make sure there's no stains and stuff. Because I'll be right on the phone being like, "Hey, I black lighted this, and like, there's some kind of residue." No, I wanted to go grab these, but I got this one. Look at this one. That's Canadian. I was gonna give it to someone special. It says $5 on it. Then I've got all these. And crap. 1 in 10 orders on the website shop.freedomfromgovernment.org gets one of these. You could get like 5. You get like 10 exercise your rights cards from the website, and you have a 1 in 10 chance of getting one of these sent to you when you get your order. So $5. These are worth 50. These are $50 right now. You look on Amazon or whatever, Kitco or whatever. I like playing with them though. You can tell when how they sound. Yeah, sounds good. Well, let's see. Has anybody else said anything? Shapiro, yeah. Yep. Contract. Seriously, I agree. A link? Oh, yes, I can do that. Let me see. And if you haven't subbed to Partially Woke, the channel, I need like 100 more subs, and I'll be able to go live on 2 live streams next time. That link I just put in the chat was for 1 in 10 chance to get some silver. You don't gotta buy nothing like, and I'm not trying to make you do anything. Believe me, it's the things in the store are all things that I wanted to do, and I thought other people might find it useful as well. I'm not the last thing I would want is for someone to do something that they're not comfortable doing, or to, do something that they're not ready to do. So really keep that in mind, because you really got to be ready. If you're going to try this stuff, you have to be at that point where you're like, I'm done. I'm done. And I'm done. These coins, these ones are silver American Eagles is what they're called. And these are all from the year 2020. So when I give them away, you can say that you got something good out of 2020. They're pretty cool. They're fun to play with. I like the silver. But um yeah. You know what? You say done paying people uh for permission to be responsible. And actually, you know what? It's the opposite of that. When you pay like insurance, you're paying to maintain irresponsibility. Do you see how that could be? You know, have you ever heard someone talk about like, oh man, if I hit the brakes hard enough and that guy rear ends me, I could just get a new car from the insurance. It's like maintaining irresponsibility. It's crazy. I'm gonna drop the link to that to my other channel. I just need some more subs, and I could go live twice as well, twice as two streams at once. So here it is. It's a partially woke channel. So yeah, cop block. I know that was a hard. That was a hard thing to realize. On 9/11, I was watching TV at my parents' house downstairs in the living room when that happened. And all I could think was, man, there's so much more to this. Uh, I think it felt like there was just more to it. You know what I mean? That we weren't being told. And I get that feeling about things, but that was in particularly something more was going on. Like they were destroying the country. Is what was going on. You know what I mean? The reason why there is an expiration date on the Divine Authority card is because my friend had a card. He was trying to cash a check at the bank, right? And he used his customer loyalty card from a store, and it had an expiration date on. Or no, maybe it was a casino loyalty card or something. It had an expiration date on it, and the bank said that they accepted that as a secondary form of ID simply because it had an expiration date. So the expiration date is not a big deal. I mean, I'll put whatever you want on it. I put right in the listing for that product. I will put anything you want on it, and I have. You wouldn't believe some of the cards I've made. Uh, but the thing is, uh, I have a very nice card printer, and I'm willing, to print out cards for people. So you don't have to make the investment that I've made in the machine itself. You know what I mean? I can customize any ID card, whatever. And I got these holograms and cool stuff. So if you don't like what it says, just let me know, because I'm happy to modify it. I mean, there's certain limitations. Like, I'm not going to say that it's a government ID, because it's not. And I'm not going to purport to be a government anything. You know what I mean? I'm not going to try to I'm not going to try to act like that, because I'm taking it back to where it's supposed to be, which is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know that sounds like something you've heard a million times, but the important part was that part where it said under God. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know what? That is a great idea, my spa. Paradise.com. That's so funny. You just got me right there. You got me. That's funny. You got me to say it. Your name, your full name on there. You know what I mean? And your name was like to a website. hope it's hope it's active and stuff. I can't say who did 9/11. I mean, what? I can say what I think it was done with, which is like I think they detonated some nuclear devices because that stuff was still red hot months later, you know? And yeah. Yeah, right on. Well, good. That's good. I don't mind then. Give it a shout out. What do you want to see one of? Smoke? What do you want to look at? I don't have any of my books or anything here. Did you want to look at these? Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that's true. You're not you're not subject to my will, and we all have free will, and that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm happy to exercise that. I mean, he gave us the ability to dictate what what we want to do, and we don't need to be forced into any kind of agreements with our servants. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, hey, no problem, CatX. Is that how you say it? A card. Oh yeah. All right. Hold on. Ugh. Okay. We got a couple different cards here for tonight. Uh, this first one here. You see that? Oh, there's like info that I don't want to get out right there, but oh, but yeah, there's that, and I also make these ones to go with it. I'm not calling this a driver's license, but it's like a. It says that I don't know if you can read it, but it says that it's. I will read it for you actually, but it's printed. It's kind of small, so. Divine Authority Automotive Card. Make, Chrysler. Year, '05. Model, Town and Country. Color, Navy. Display, PR1V4T3. Unique ID, which is the VIN. And then it says, bearer of this card is fully authorized and deemed competent to use the above identified consumer goods mobility conveyance in a private ministerial capacity to perform the duties of fellowship and work of goodwill towards the furtherance of peace and harmony in the community. Sound good? Here's how I look at it. Here's how it's going to be. Here's the deal. Uh, if I want to use a machine to move my body, I'm going to do it. So um, for both of these, uh, they're like $90. I'll do both of these for you, both automotive and the ID, universal ID. So just FYI. And then these are I brought some of these to give away out here. They're just to help people. I don't know. I just want to help people learn who they are. You know, what if they tow your car? Yeah, that's a risk you run. I mean, If they tow your car, I have you treat it like an auto theft, basically. And auto theft is a crime, right? Uh, but you always run that risk. Uh, the best thing to do is to have your car in a private trust so that it is not your car and that you are able to get it back easier. Yeah, so is kidnapping. Definitely. Yeah, if you're going to use the word losers, then you're obviously not interested in being respectful. So I don't think anybody should, you know. Exactly. Yes, I buy a cheap car to start out with until you get more confident in your abilities. Don't go, and you cannot use a car that you are leasing or that is not paid off yet, that you don't own outright. You know? Yes, trust is utmost important. Uh, and it is. Trust is so important to everyone. You got to have trust. And when you have someone that has control of the ownership documents that's not you, that is trusted to hold them, things change. They don't want to steal a car from someone that they could be doing something potentially uh, something that they could be liable for. Yeah, yeah. And law is simple. I mean, the law is just don't hurt people and don't have fraud in your contracts and don't. Simple, simple. Uh, the legal profession convolutes that and really harms what law is, by changing the definitions of words and causing some serious issues with comprehension and yeah, exactly. Color of law is uh, is a mess. So McNally versus the U.S. while quoting U.S. versus Holzer, fraud in its elementary common law sense of deceit. And this is one of the meanings that fraud bears in the statute. It includes the deliberate concealment of material information in a setting of a fiduciary obligation. A public official is a fiduciary toward the public, including, in the case of a judge, the litigants who appear before him. And if he deliberately conceals material from them, he is guilty of fraud. See, that's why I'm pulling out all the stops. I'm going to go at him saying fraud. You cannot force me to be a party to fraud. Period. Yeah. Cop Block Hot Springs, yes, be prepared to lose. But what I look at as a loss is when you don't stand up for yourself. When they get you to comply through threats and threats of torture and violence to your physical being and captivity and stuff, and you stand up to them, even then, that's a win. That's not losing. I don't care who says otherwise. That's how I feel. The law does create a presumption where the burden is on a party to prove a material fact peculiarly within his knowledge, and he fails without excuse to testify that his testimony, if introduced, would be adverse to his interests. Notification of legal responsibility is the first essential of due process of law. See also U.S. versus Tweal. Silence can only be equated with fraud where there is a legal or moral duty to speak, or when an inequity left unanswered would be intentionally misleading. Corpus delicti consists of a showing of 1, the occurrence of the specific kind of injury, and 2, someone's criminal act as the cause of the injury, which they don't have when you get in trouble for not putting on your seatbelt. You know, don't be scared to not want to participate in fraud and to tell them, because we have to be the ones that stand up for ourselves. You know, we've let it go. Our parents did, and their parents did. They all. What happened when you turned 16 or 15 or whatever and wanted to go get behind the wheel of the car? You signed up, didn't you? But they didn't give you full disclosure, so it's fraud. It is fraud. And governments descend to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen, where private corporate commercial paper, Federal Reserve notes, and securities checks are concerned. For purposes of suit, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. Clearfield Trust Company versus United States. When governments enter the world of commerce, they are subject to the same burdens as any private firm or corporation. And then Trezvant, case damage award standard. Evidence that motorist cited for traffic violation was incarcerated for 23 minutes during the booking process, even though he had never been arrested and at all times had sufficient cash on hand to post bond pending court disposition of citation, was sufficient to support finding that municipality employing officer who cited motorists and County Board of Criminal Justice, which operated facility in which motorist was incarcerated, had unconstitutionally deprived motorists of his right to liberty. That was a Title 42, Section 1983 case, Trezvant versus City of Tampa, 1984. The jury verdict of $25,000 in favor of the motorist who was unconstitutionally deprived of his liberty when incarcerated during booking process following citation for traffic violation was not excessive in view of evidence of motorist back pain during period of incarceration and jailer's refusal to provide medical treatment, as well as the fact that the motorist was clearly entitled to compensation for incarceration itself and for mental anguish that he had suffered from the entire episode. So let's think about this for a second. When the cops pull you over for not having a proper tag or something, and they break your window, pull you out of the car, and haul you off to jail, steal your car, that's damaging. And that's like criminal, that's a criminal activity, you know? So, yeah. 18 USC is the rules that they're supposed to be following, like the Constitution and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that everything is just, it's way too much as it is. It needs to get scaled back quite a bit. So, you know, oh wow, I'm in Utah. I went an hour east. I mean, the time zone east. So it is 12:18 right now, right? It's officially my birthday. Yay! Yay, slavery paper day. Right? So, John L. Lewis was injured by a vehicle owned and operated by a Federal Reserve Bank and brought action alleging jurisdiction under the Federal Tort Claims Act. The district court dismissed the case by ruling that the Federal Reserve Bank was not a federal agency within the meaning of the Federal Tort Claims Act, and the court therefore lacked subject matter jurisdiction. The appeals court affirmed the decision. The court stated, examining the organization and function of the Federal Reserve Banks and applying the relevant factors, we conclude that the reserve banks are not federal instrumentalities for purpose of the FTCA, but are independent, privately owned, and locally controlled corporations. However, this does not imply, as so many wrongly interpret, that private individuals own the banks, for the court also stated, each Federal Reserve Bank is a separate corporation owned by commercial banks in its region. The stockholding commercial banks elect 2/3 of each bank's 9-member board of directors. The remaining 3 directors are appointed by the Federal Reserve Board. The Federal Reserve Board regulates the reserve banks, but direct supervision and control of each bank is exercised by its board of directors, 12 U.S.C. Section 301. The directors enact bylaws regulating the manner of conducting general bank business, 12 U.S.C. Section 341, and appoint officers to implement and supervise daily bank activities. These activities include collecting and clearing checks, making advances to private and commercial entities, holding reserves for member banks, and discounting the notes of those member banks, and buying and selling securities on the open market. See 12 U.S.C. subsection 341 to 361. Serving a federal purpose does not necessarily imply being a federal agency. Maddox versus U.S. We are bound to interpret the Constitution in the light of the law as it existed at the time it was adopted. South Carolina versus U.S. The Constitution is a written instrument. Breath Day, I like that. Yeah, yes, I like that a lot. The Constitution is a written instrument. As such, its meaning does not alter. That which it meant when it was adopted, it means now. And I think we saw this already, didn't we? Shapiro versus Thompson. Further, the right to travel by private conveyance for private purposes upon the common way cannot be infringed, in all caps. No license or permission is required for travel when such travel is not for the purpose of commercial profit or gain on the open highways operating under license in commerce. Marbury versus Madison states, the Constitution of these United States is the supreme law of the land. Any law that is repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. I would say that includes traffic code, you know? That's not the Constitution. There's no provision for traffic stops in the Fourth Amendment. You know, keep that in mind. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. No state shall convert a liberty into a privilege, license it, and attach a fee to it. And then in Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham, if the state converts a liberty, no plate. I mean, you don't need one. My experience has been that if you don't have a plate, you get pulled over and talked to. But I mean, if you can handle it, if you can handle it yourself, you can do it with no plate. I'm not saying you need one, you know. That if the state converts a liberty into a privilege, the citizen can engage in the right with impunity. And, I call myself a citizen, but I'm a servant citizen. I serve God, and I'm a citizen of God's kingdom in heaven or something. The earth is not. God did not make states, or borders and stuff. I think he just made the whole place. He didn't make it all sealed off and stuff. In Miranda versus Arizona, where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. And the rights of the individuals are restricted only to the extent that they have been voluntarily surrendered by the citizenship to the agencies of government. You hear that? City of Dallas versus Mitchell. Yep. Norton versus Shelby County. An unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights. It imposes no duties, affords no protection. It creates no office. It is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though it had never been passed. And in Miller versus U.S., the claim and exercise of a constitutional right cannot be converted into a crime. Poindexter versus Greenhow. To take away all remedy for the enforcement of a right is to take away the right itself. But that is not within the power of the state. Brady versus U.S. Waivers of constitutional rights, not only must they be voluntary, they must be knowingly intelligent acts done with sufficient awareness. Carnley versus Cochran. Presuming waiver from a silent record is impermeable. The record must show, or there must be an allegation and evidence which show, that an accused was offered counsel but intelligently and understandingly rejected the offer. Anything less is not waiver. Cooper versus Aaron. No state legislator or executive or judicial officer can war against the Constitution without violating his undertaking to support it. The constitutional theory is that we, the people, are the sovereigns. The state and federal officials are only our agents. The individual, unlike the corporation, cannot be taxed for the mere privilege of existing. The corporation is an artificial entity which owes its existence and charter powers to the state, but the individual's rights to live and own property are natural rights for the enjoyment of which an excise cannot be imposed. Redfield versus Fisher. In common usage, the term person does not include the sovereign, and statutes employing the phrase are ordinarily construed to exclude it. United States versus Cooper Corporation. In Colton versus Kentucky, dissent by Douglas. If the nation comes down from its position of sovereignty and enters the domain of commerce, it submits itself to the same laws that govern individuals therein. It assumes the position of an ordinary citizen, and it cannot recede from the fulfillment of its obligations. And here's where we get to this. James Freeman, if you're still here, we're finally to your sovereign immunity. Sovereign immunity does not apply where, as here, government is a lawbreaker or jurisdiction is the issue. Arthur versus Fry. An officer may be held liable in damages to any person injured in consequence of a breach of any of the duties connected with his office. The liability for nonfeasance, misfeasance, and for malfeasance in the office is in his individual, not official capacity. That's 70 American Jurisprudence, second edition, section 50. Civil liability, knowing failure to disclose material information necessary to prevent statement from being misleading or making representation despite knowledge that it has no reasonable basis in fact, are actionable as fraud under law. Rubenstein versus Collins. A party in interest may become liable for fraud by mere silent acquiescence and partaking of the benefits of fraud. Bramson versus Standard Hardware. See, that starts telling us something. You can participate in fraud by not speaking up, you know? Ex dolo malo non oratur actio. Out of fraud, no action arises. Fraud never gives a right of action. No court will lend its aid to a man who founds his cause of action upon an immoral or illegal act. And that's in Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, page 509. Nudd versus Burroughs. Fraud destroys the validity of everything into which it enters. Boyce versus Grundy. Fraud vitiates everything. U.S. versus Throckmorton. Fraud vitiates the most solemn contracts, documents, and even judgments. You hear that? When a citizen challenges the acts of a federal or state official as being illegal, that official cannot simply just avoid liability based upon the fact that he is a public official. That's case law. United States versus Lee. The United States claimed title to Arlington Lee's estate via a tax sale some years earlier, held to be void by the court. In so voiding the title of the United States, the court declared, no man in this country is so high that he is above the law. No officer of the law may set that law at defiance with impunity. All the officers of the government, from the highest to the lowest, are creatures of the law and are bound to obey it. It is the only supreme power in our system of government, and every man who by accepting office, participates in its functions, is only the more strongly bound to submit to that supremacy and to observe the limitations which it imposes upon the exercise of the authority which it gives. Shall it be said that the courts cannot give remedy when the citizen has been deprived of his property by force, his estate seized and converted to the use of government without any lawful authority, without any process of law, and without any compensation, because the president has ordered it and his officers are in possession? If such be the law of this country, it sanctions a tyranny which has no existence in the monarchies of Europe, nor in any other government which has a just claim to well-regulated liberty and the protection of personal rights. Yeah, you're onto something, Cop Block, Hot Springs. Yeah, it's if you can, it's fraud. I don't want to participate in fraud. And you bet I'm going to be able to explain what's going on and how with the fraud. If I'm going to say it, I'm going to accuse them of a crime, I'm going to be able to explain it. Yeah, in Cunningham versus Macon. In these cases, he is not sued as, or because he is, the officer of the government, but as an individual. And the court is not ousted of jurisdiction because he asserts authority as such officer. To make out his defense, he must show that his authority was sufficient in law to protect him. It is no answer for the defendant to say, I am an officer of the government and acted under its authority, unless he shows sufficiency of that authority. That's Poindexter versus Greenhow. Whereas officials and even judges have no immunity. Owen versus City of Independence. Officials and judges are deemed to know the law and sworn to uphold the law. Officials and judges cannot claim to act in good faith in willful deprivation of law. They certainly cannot plead ignorance of the law. Even the citizen cannot plead ignorance of the law. The courts have ruled there is no such thing as ignorance of the law. It is ludicrous for learned officials and judges to plead ignorance of the law. Therefore, there is no immunity, judicial or otherwise, in matters of the rights secured by the Constitution for the United States of America. You can look at that right in Title 42 USC Section 1983. When lawsuits are brought against federal officials, they must be brought against them in their individual capacity, not their official capacity. When federal officials perpetrate constitutional torts, they do so ultra vires, beyond the powers, and lose the shield of immunity. Williamson versus Department of Agriculture. Did I miss something? Moses gave us laws and then broke them. I'm confused. Now he will forever be depicted with horns on the moon. But I don't know what that. I don't know. Man owned property long before the straw man. Yeah. You misspoke. Get him to testify. The law applies to you. The facts and evidence to prove it. Yeah, and then get the hold of that prosecutor and see where his, see where his evidence is. Tax form. There is no law saying that you have to file a tax form, but when you do, you sign the contract. Yep, you sure do. Somebody deleted what you said. What did you say? This is stuff. Whatever. I'm not deleting nothing. But personal involvement in deprivation of constitutional rights is a prerequisite to award of damages. But defendant may be personally involved in constitutional deprivation by direct participation, failure to remedy wrongs after learning about it, creation of a policy or custom under which unconstitutional practices occur, or gross negligence in managing subordinates who cause violation. Gallegos versus Haggerty. The law requires proof of jurisdiction to appear on the record of the administrative agency and all administrative proceedings. Haggins versus Levine. Yet, de facto. If you relied on prior decisions of the Supreme Court, you have a perfect defense for willfulness. U.S. versus Bishop. That's interesting. I didn't think I was going to go so long tonight. I think I'm probably going to wrap it up because I'm going to try and get some sleep and then figure out what I'm going to do in the morning. Hey, Jay, are you still there? Do you have any names of like places to shop? Like, I want to get some stuff to take back to the desert with me. But, yeah, I'm not here deleting any comments. So, but hey, you guys, thanks for hanging out with me tonight, and I really appreciate it. I wouldn't be able to do it without you. So, thank you. And word up, James Freeman. Yes, it's time to like. I mean, we don't got to be like best friends or nothing, but we don't got to be fighting either. I mean, I'm cool to be your friend too, though. You know, I'm very forgiving, and what we're doing is more important than. I mean, any. It's like this is like the time right now is so important to be finishing up this crap so that we can have our 1,000 years of peace. You know what I mean? And I'm ready for it. So ready. All right. Everybody have a good night. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.